Hey, welcome back to your favourite podcast, The Vault of Cult, with me, Chris.
And Mark, are you alright, gang?
I hope you're alright, we're doing alright. So Mark, special episode.
Guys, we've got something really special
It's
for you
very
tonight.
special.
We've been planning it for a long time. We've been talking about it, discussing, moving it around. So
we've had many a night talking about
many nights discussions on this. So for this one, because it's very special, going to be a bit longer for you guys.
Longer episode.
You're gonna absolutely love it, because if you like film, I'm pretty sure that you at least can recognise these films that we're doing. And yes, films, multiple,
because we are actually doing a special on a trilogy, a trilogy of films.
Yeah. So what we're doing today is we're doing The Lord of the Rings.
The Lord of the Rings, guys.
The entire trilogy. We're gonna give you a breakdown, our thoughts, our feelings, our
some interesting facts.
So yeah, always some fun facts to have fun with, and what it means to us.
Yeah.
This film, and what it's meant for cinema, because I think it's meant a lot to both of those things.
Agree. It's a technical achievement for a start.
Yeah, it is. I would say one of the most influential and recognisable film trilogies that there's ever been. So strap in, you're going on a bit of an adventure with us.
A little adventure,
now, with us and Frodo and Sam and all of the gang.
And all of the gang, guys. Yeah. So, thanks for joining us.
Yes, as always, thanks for joining us.
Get in touch.
Get in touch. Tell us anything. Tell us your thoughts about The Lord of the Rings. You know you'll have thoughts about The Lord of the Rings. Don't know anyone who ain't got thoughts on Lord of the Rings. So let us know them. Why don't you give them their...
So yeah, get in touch, guys. As I say, as usual, we've got a Gmail account. We're thevaultofcult@gmail.com, and we're also on Instagram. You can get us at The Vault of Cult. Get in touch, and also, give us a like, share, and subscribe on all the platforms you listen to us on.
And this one, gang, perfect one to share.
Really,
it's going to be the perfect one to share. Because you're going to know someone who's got something to think about The Lord of the Rings, so...
Let's give them our thoughts, then.
Yeah, put us in their ears.
Coming in your ears?
Yeah, made that weird now, don't I?
A little bit.
Alright, so join us, guys, here we go.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy, Mark.
Yes, The Lord of the Rings.
Special Vault episode.
Yeah.
Extended version.
Extended. The extended cut. I know. So yeah, we've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was released from December 2001 to December 2003. A film a year, essentially. Competing with Harry Potter.
This is better.
This is better. Sorry, but it is.
Fuck Harry.
Yeah, fuck Harry. If you're a big Harry Potter fan, do not write in.
Yeah.
But
still shit.
It is.
So the trilogy is made up of 3 films, right?
It is made up of 3 films.
So the first one, Fellowship of the Ring.
The Fellowship of the Ring, and then The Two Towers in 2002, and then The Return of the King in 2003.
Isn't that a line from Lion King?
The Return of the King. Well, yeah, it comes back at the end. Yeah.
And he actually says it, doesn't he? Is it Rafika?
So. No, Rafiki just... I think he might, actually.
I think he does say return.
Hey, reference.
I know.
Reference. But yeah, it is... They are long old films.
Yes, combined runtime of 558 minutes.
For the theatrical run, yes indeed. But... which is 9 hours and 18 minutes.
Crackers,
so that's many hours of film. But there is an extended cut of all 3 films to make a total combined of 683 minutes. That would be, in normal parlance, 11 hours and 23 minutes. 11 and a half hours.
11 and a half hours.
It's 11 and a half hours.
That's a day. That's a day.
It's a day. It's a day. It's your day of watching. That. Have you ever sat and tried it and watched all the way through them?
You fucking mad.
I did it at uni because, I had nowhere else to do. I could have been doing my dissertation or something like that. But fuck that.
Fuck that.
Yeah. Sat and watched through a few libations. Mostly of a herbal nature. Do you know what I mean? Like at university.
Little smoke on a joint.
Yes.
Easy through the day. It's still 11 and a half hours.
But yeah, I think it's got to be said that these are classic pieces, cult pieces of cinema.
I think they represent a change in terms of scale and what's possible with production, leading out of the 90s. And I think it set the groundwork for how films are made today in terms of
absolutely
the scale and the sheer amount of expense in production.
Yeah, just even how films are structured, particularly adapted films that are adapted from another piece.
Change the game.
It absolutely changed.
Because everyone went, "Ooh, we've got to do that now."
That's how we've got to do it. So anyway, I'll give the overall financials.
Financials of all. So with everything we talk about, guys, on the show, we'll reference as a trilogy, but we will be going into each film individually.
Yes. So I'll give you the overall. It had an overall budget, including everything.
All three films, guys.
Of 281 million,
which don't forget is pretty much the budget of a normal Marvel film these days.
That's what I mean. You're talking that amount of money for one film nowadays for a big tentpole film like any Marvel movie. Like how much did that bloody Indiana Jones cost? I think it cost about as much as
the Dial of Dog shit.
Yeah, the Dial of Who's Bothered.
Yeah. Because there is only 3 Indiana Jones films, guys.
There is.
Let's just get that in there now.
You all know this. Everyone knows this. So, it's overall box office. And like we say, when we go into each one, I'll give you its domestic and international.
Yeah.
But its overall figures that all 3 films made was 3.004 billion.
With a B.
That is billion with a B. That's mega money. Is that pure mega money?
So that's what, like 8 times its budget, something like that.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say, and I don't think it would be a shock to any of us listeners to say that these were big hits.
Huge
hits.
Because it was again, there was filmmaking on a scale that we didn't think was possible in the 90s.
No, exactly. Like this, it's almost like the culmination of all the techniques and everything that had been developed over the 1990s.
CGI, the model
CGI, motion capture, puppetry. It's all there and it's all on display, and so they're basically the pinnacle of that. I like sort of that. They started production in the 2000s, and it's almost like they've capped off the 90s with this film, the first film. Well, they filmed all 3.
Yeah, they literally filmed the whole trilogy at once. Yeah. Over a period of I think it was 16 months altogether.
Yes, all 3 films shot simultaneously in New Zealand between October 1999 and December 2000. So, about 16 months, that, isn't it? So it's such a culmination of a trilogy, and it's one of those where, and we'll get into each of them and what we think about them, but it's such a stars align group of films.
Well, the thing is as well that they've been trying to make a film version for years and years and years, since the 70s, Even the Beatles were involved at some... I'm not getting onto the fun facts, but the Beatles were involved at some point. So they was really pushing for them to star in... And it'd be like a magical mystery tour, Yellow Submarine-y, not a serious film.
Yes, I'm glad that In a sense, I'm
exist.
glad that doesn't exist. Don't need that.
They did make a Ralph Bakshi animated
Ralph
version.
Bakshi. I've seen the Ralph Bakshi animated film. It's a curious film.
Did it only adapt like half?
It's the first half of the books. It basically, I think if I remember pretty,
is it Fellowship and Half the Two Towers?
It basically ends. I believe it's a long time since I watched it, but it basically ends just after Helm's Deep.
Right.
I think
they did plan on making another one, but it just didn't.
They did plan, yeah, but didn't Rankin and Bass then make a TV animated thing for Return of the King? Anyway, we're going off. We're running ahead of ourselves here, because I think it's important that we give our listeners a bit of context. The Lord of the Rings, the book, the series of books. Well, three books.
Trilogy.
It is a sequel to the well-regarded children's book, The Hobbit, by a man called J.R.R. Tolkien. James Richard Rowan Tolkien.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's basically working on a fantasy world for much of his life. He was a professor of ancient languages. It was a
story for his kids, wasn't it?
And he developed The Hobbit first as a story for his children, and it's almost like this story grew with his children, because The Hobbit is very much a children's book, and this is definitely more for teenagers and adults.
Yeah.
And Tolkien himself wrote...
There's a lot more life lessons.
It is, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It is the second most successful book written in English,
apart from the Bible.
Apart from the King James Bible, which you can't deny that basically half of the modern English language comes from the King James Bible. So you can't. No one's ever taken that. However, it is one of the most successful books ever written. Book series,
and it won't surprise me if it's the most published.
Yeah, it's published all over the world. In terms of what it is constantly being in print. Yeah. Basically since the early 50s when Lord of the Rings came out. Obviously The Hobbit came out in the 30s. And The Lord of the Rings is a huge, sprawling epic of so many themes of history and love and friendship and all sorts of...
Because it's quite medieval in the setting.
It's incredibly medieval, as you can see from the films. And it's very influenced by European languages and folklore, which Tolkien was a professor of. He studied all of them at Cambridge when he was there, and he went on to be the professor at Leeds University. That is why the languages that Tolkien used are so developed. He developed a full Elvish language for it. It is so incredibly deep, but an incredibly accessible story still. It's the culmination of folklore itself, and it's the godfather of fantasy. Yeah. When we think of fantasy, because fantasy before Tolkien was a little bit The Prince and the Pauper and stuff like that, less epic in tone, and it's Tolkien who made it more...
It wasn't about... Whereas now, you know, for example, just to touch upon the kind of scale of things in fantasy, we get in Game of Thrones, which is the adult... more serious version of a fantasy world,
and none of that would have existed without Tolkien. No. And Tolkien, you
have to world build now. You have to be a world.
Yes, and he really does build the world, and it's an epic.
And role playing games.
And role playing games, D&D wouldn't exist without. We can see the renaissance of D&D essentially at the moment. And I just want to read you this quote from his good friend. C.S. Lewis,
who wrote The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, so his contemporary, and they were very good friends. And he wrote, "No imaginary world has been projected which is at once so multifarious and so true to its own inner laws, almost endless diversity of scenes and characters, its comic, homely, epic, monstrous and diabolic.
Which, like, that is describing what fantasy...
Fantasy, it is the very essence of fantasy for us. And if you're a fan of fantasy, you are in some way indebted to Tolkien.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean? He's a giant...
And Middle-earth as a setting for stories to tell.
He's a giant of fantasy, and I would say he is a giant of English literature and English novels.
Yeah, that has to be recognised. Definitely.
So I just thought I'd give you that little bit of extra context about the man and the legend, indeed, that is J.R.R. Tolkien.
So the plot of the films. Which are a different beast altogether, obviously. So the plot of the film trilogy is set in a fictional world of Middle-earth. The films follow the Hobbit, Frodo Baggins, as he and the Fellowship embark on a quest to destroy the One Ring, to ensure the destruction of its maker, the Dark Lord Sauron. The Fellowship eventually splits up, and Frodo continues the quest with his loyal companion Sam and the treacherous Gollum. Meanwhile, Aragorn, heir in exile to the throne of Gondor, along with the elf Legolas, the dwarf Gimli, Merry, Pippin, who are hobbits, and the wizard Gandalf, unite to save the free peoples of Middle-earth from the forces of Sauron and rally them in the War of the Ring to aid Frodo by distracting Sauron's attention.
Yeah.
That's the trilogy in a nutshell.
That is the very essence of it. And it's an adventure film par excellence. The first film is very we're building our team.
Yeah.
Your second film is your darkest hour.
It's almost like a reversed heist film because they've already got the MacGuffin, they've already got the ring.
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to it because I would argue that ring is not a MacGuffin. We'll come on to that when we're talking about it. Okay. But interesting that you'd say that.
Okay.
But
so I mean, getting into the trilogy itself, right? So the whole trilogy was produced by New Line Cinema, which were more famous for making low-budget horrors, a la Nightmare on Elm Street. Directed by a guy called Peter Jackson, very well known now, but before then, his most commercial film was The Frighteners, about a ghost hunter, or not a ghost hunter, a private detective that gets involved with a ghost story, Michael J. Fox. And even before that, guys, he started as a very low-budget splatter horror filmmaker. He's very gross-out comedy. He did like a very adult take on a version of The Muppets.
Yeah,
which is very sexual, very adult. He did Bad Taste. No, it isn't, mate. It is not. It really is not. Even now, you're looking at it, you're like, that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he made a couple of low budget horrors that kind of made his name as a very technical director. They could pull off a lot of interesting shots with no money, and he built a team. The team
came to do this,
and the team that made those low budget horror films with him have made these films along with him. His team, he actually created a production company, Weta Digital, to realise his vision, and he created the technology to make the film. So it was written by Peter Jackson, his wife, Fran Walsh, and another woman called Philippa Boyens, again based on the books by Tolkien. Score by Howard Shaw.
We'll have things to say about that score.
Very good.
But I don't think it's a spoiler to tell anybody that I think it's one of the best scores ever written for a film.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
So
we'll come on to why when we're getting deep into it, when we're in the weeds. But wow.
So moving on to the cast. So get ready, guys, because this is pretty fucking exhaustive. But I've just put the 20 main players that have more than a handful of speaking parts.
Cast of thousands is this.
There's Eds in this.
There's Eds on Eds on Eds on Eds. Fucking like Jesus, you look at it and you think, God.
Mark's printed off the cast list. Yeah, it's just pages and pages.
Just pages and fucking pages. Cast of thousands. I mean, who directed it? You're not Roland Emmerich. Like,
oh Jesus. let's move on from that fucker. Right, so the cast. So right, just bear with me, guys. I'm just going to rattle through because we're going to refer back to characters and stuff as we go on. Elijah Wood plays Frodo Baggins. Viggo Mortensen plays Aragorn/Strider. Sean Bean? What the fuck's that?
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean plays Boromir. Dominic Monaghan plays Merry. Sean Astin plays Sam. Ian McKellen plays Gandalf. John Rhys-Davies plays Gimli, the slash Treebeard. Orlando Bloom plays Legolas. Billy Boyd plays Pippin. Ian Holm plays Bilbo Baggins. Liv Tyler plays Arwen. Hugo Weaving plays Elrond. Kate Blanchett plays Galadriel. Andy Serkis is the mocap and the voice of Gollum. Mm-hmm. Christopher Lee plays Saruman. Brad Dourif plays Wormtongue. Miranda Otto plays Eowyn. John Noble plays Denethor. Carl Urban plays Éomer. And Bernard Hill plays Theoden.
Yeah.
That's just the main 20 players of...
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
That is all you need to know.
And that's... I'm not saying any more. I weren't doing any more than that.
No. Well, I just printed it and thought, I'm not...
And there's no way I'm going into each of these fucking filmographers. I ain't doing it.
No. I mean, obviously...
Just
like,
Google...
You know where to go. Just
Google it. Everyone knows fucking Liv Tyler. Everyone knows Kate Blanchett. Everyone knows Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom will move on. Everyone knows Elijah Wood. They're all Sean Bean, bastard. You bastard.
You bastard,
Sharp.
Yeah,
Sharp.
I fucking love Sharp.
Fucking Sharp,
I
mate.
love Sharp.
Bernard Cornwell books.
Yeah. Really good TV shows. Sharp. Anyway,
so yeah, there's the exhaustive cast list.
Yeah,
Heads
in it. Heads on heads. Yeah, and I have to say, just to go one thing with the cast, just all of them. I think some of them give the performance of their absolute lives in this.
There isn't a bad performance.
There literally isn't. And it's one thing that I will say about these films. Everyone was there for it. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like anyone was phoning it in.
Not at all.
At all.
I think it was they realised they wanted to do it justice.
Yeah.
Because it could very easily have been,
it's...
Performances are not aligned with other actors and...
Yeah, and some of the lines, it is an epic high fantasy. Some of the lines in the wrong hands will come across as goofy.
100%.
Me and you are both a big fan of the fantasy genre.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge.
How often will you watch a fantasy film and you think, oh, that's come across a little bit, it's a bit weird that...
I think there's three things in there, mate. There's the triangle here. There's the actual script, there's the delivery, and there's a direction.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm saying when I was like, this is a stars-aligned film.
Yeah.
Everyone was there for it. Everyone's playing their top game. Peter Jackson's got his thinking cap on, which he doesn't fucking always. I have to say.
No. I think probably this is the peak of his.
These are best films that Peter Jackson's ever done that I've ever seen. I don't think that's a controversial statement to say. Do you know what I mean? And considering he did another trilogy in the same world we'll come on to
The Hobbit.
Wildly different quality compared to these. I don't mean monetary quality.
No.
I mean directorial and storytelling quality.
This trilogy compared to the Hobbit trilogy. The Hobbit trilogy was more of a, what's the word?
Shit. No,
it's not. They're not shit.
They're not shit.
But they're of a different quality.
They are of a different.
In terms of acting, script, again, direction. You can tell.
You can tell. So yeah, shall we go into them a little deeper now? Oh, yeah. We'll give them some. Some fun facts.
Come on, guys.
Fun facts. Right. I've got a few here. It was originally pitched to Miramax.
It was
as two films.
Yes,
as two films. They were also
the road
to
the screen for these trilogy of films is very interesting. It's a documentary upon itself.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a shame that we really don't have
there's lawsuits, there's rights issues, there's
rights issues.
Studios seeing their ass, there's people going, I'll give you the money for 3 films, I'll give you money for...
Yeah.
Because they're initially like...
There's rights issues in terms of... because obviously the Tolkien estate
wants Tolkien estate.
Because the Tolkien estate, by the way, people...
Who own the rights to all of Tolkien's works.
It's his son, and he died recently, actually, his grandson. They're basically in control of it, and they're very, I wouldn't say controlling, they're not like some authors where they're like, don't do this, don't do that, but they're very
precious.
I think they are, yeah. I think they are protective in a good way of the work. They're very, you can do it, but you do it justice, and if we don't like it, we'll pull it.
No, that's fair.
What I mean?
Fair.
And it is absolutely fair. Especially with a book that's so influential.
Yeah, and so beloved.
Fair. Yeah. They had to. I believe they had to buy some rights off Rankin and Bass as well, because, like I said, they held the rights to Return of the King. Obviously, we've said it went to New Line, so it went to New Line.
And New Line were the only people that went, it's 3 books, why don't you do 3 films?
Exactly, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because pre-Lord of the Rings, if there is an adaptation of a series of books, they'll normally only get maybe like 1 or 2 films, and you've got to condense. This is the first film where it's like there's 1 book and there's 1 film per book.
Yeah.
And so adaptations of book trilogies in the future, it's 1 film per book.
Yeah.
Ever since.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look at the Harry Potter franchise running simultaneously. It's 1 film per book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting, very, very interesting. So it started to Miramax. They eventually
Harvey Weinstein's company.
We'll
move
company. On. Yeah, move on. Bad lad. They passed because their official thing was because they worried that it would have ballooning budgets. Well, silly Harvey, considering the kind of money that we'd make.
Yeah. Well, didn't he? I think he pitched it as a 4-hour film.
Yeah.
And then they went, we want a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
And he went, well, can I have 2 films? And they went,
go on, man.
Maybe.
But I think fundamentally, Peter Jackson didn't get on with Harvey Weinstein, is not surprised because he's a fucking creature. And secondly, I don't think they fundamentally understood the project. Whereas New Line, the fella, I haven't wrote his name
Bob
down.
Shea.
No, Bob Shea, thank you. He was also a fan of The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
And so he said, you can do it, but I want these scripts changing so that it is now 3 films. And the 2 films at Miramax, but Miramax had to have their fucking payout. Harvey Weinstein had to have his payout. Very, very complicated. So yeah, and there are so many.
And even Peter Jackson sued New Line after it all.
The rights and the money to this film has gone to cock.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's mental. And we could talk for 3/4 of an hour about this, but we're not gonna. Don't worry. So it ended up in New Line, turned it into 3 films, and I think this fact that I've got here just shows that Miramax were not the right studio for this.
And this is a quote from
Miramax suggested to play Gandalf, Morgan Freeman. A good actor, Morgan Freeman is a great actor, but it's not his. It's not his kind of film, and it's not a part for Morgan Freeman. And no, I don't just mean because he's black. I don't mean that. But it's not. It's not for him. It's not for him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that just sort of underlines that Miramax, it wasn't. They were not the studio for this. They didn't understand it. Do you know who else they suggested for Boromir?
It's some action star.
It was Nicolas Cage.
Oh.
They're not right. They were not right for this for this production.
I mean, he was a bit, you know, he was.
Mate, I'm a fan of Nicolas Cage.
Of course,
I'm not saying that.
But no,
it's not his part.
Yeah, no.
Sean Bean absolutely is his
it's
part.
him. It's him. Give it him.
And I thought it was very interesting that you can really see that New Line understood it more, because their suggestions for playing him were, well, because Peter Jackson wanted Patrick Stewart at first. And one of the other writers, I forget which one, it were either his missus or the other...
Franny's missus and Philippa
suggested... because they'd seen them acting together, suggested Ian McKellen, and Peter Jackson went, 100%, that's the guy. But the other suggestions from New Line were much more on the money. So Christopher Lee himself wanted the part of Gandalf. He wanted the part of Gandalf, but he ended up getting cast as Saruman. Another fun fact, Christopher Lee, the only member of the cast who knew Tolkien personally.
He met him in Oxford.
Met him. But the other suggestions were from New Line were Connery and Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, you said Plummer before.
I've said Christopher.
Connery's not. Connery's no.
Connery, apparently, that's another one of my facts. He said no because he didn't understand
which
the
I get.
script. I get it.
He knows about hitting women.
Yeah.
Or he did know about hitting women.
Give him a backhander. He was like, oh,
I better do as you're told.
Shite this. What is this, pish? Pish? Do you know what I mean? No.
Do as you're told.
But I feel like they were running along the right track with Christopher Plummer.
Yeah,
it'd have been different from Ian McKellen.
But I think it's that. I mean, I don't know if it's because you know, he was Gandalf. You know, and he's tread the boards. It's one of them.
Yeah,
people that have tread the boards.
Yeah.
So he gets it. He can inhibit a part. He can go, I'm just going to inhibit this character.
He is. And
he's a stage actor.
Ian McKellen in this part is go hard or go home. He's not arsed. He's 100%.
I'm here.
And I'm fucking Gandalf.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You shall not frigging pass. It's the film trilogy that really brought to public attention like motion capture, particularly like Andy Serkis with the It had been used before. I'm not pretending
no.
It hadn't.
But a character that's in a chunk of the runtime, which was the first time.
Yeah. Well, because before that there'd been like Jar Jar Binks, hadn't they? Like
lots of people gonna die.
Are they gonna die?
Big bada boom.
Return of the King is the second film ever to break $1 billion
at the time.
At the
and that
time,
was in 2003, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
20
sorry.
years ago.
At the time, it was the second film ever. Do we know the first?
Titanic.
Yeah. 100%.
And then another James Cameron monstrosity. No, the Titanic's not. Let me take
Titanic's
that back.
not a monstrosity.
It's not. But it's what he's churning out now is.
Oh yeah. Titanic's absolutely not. But yeah. Another fun fact, but I think everybody knows this. Stuart Townsend was originally cast as Aragorn, but it wasn't working. They got there and it wasn't working.
That's
Stuart Townsend from Queen of the Damned.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's the sequel to Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But Interview with the Vampire, great film.
What's that?
Queen of the Damned.
What's this?
What's this mental film?
Here's an interesting fact, right? So Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood never filmed any scenes together.
They are. They're in films together. They're in scenes together. Yeah, like the whole bit, like give me the ring. Like, and I can't take it off you.
I'm pretty sure that's true, and they didn't film scenes together.
Well, they'd have to
because of the height thing.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you meant they're not in scenes together. It's
no, they never filmed together.
Yeah, they can't be because of the height. Because
they're literally in the next room next to each other.
Yeah.
Because of the perspective thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood what you meant. I thought you meant there's no scenes together. I was like, there's about fucking 100.
No, they didn't. They weren't present together in the same scene.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I threw you off your off your stride.
No. I just thought that was interesting. That's a cheeky little fun fact, isn't it?
It's because of the forced perspective of how it would be. Because obviously Elijah Wood is not Hobbit-sized.
Yeah, and very again, it shows Peter Jackson could pull off these things.
Clever.
Again,
Very clever.
very low budget filmmaking to make an picture. Do you know what I mean? You're using the same techniques.
Yeah, clever, and you can see that from what you were describing earlier with the lower budget film. Good shots, great, technically good shots.
Camera movements
on a lower budget,
and a lot. He learnt the trade. They call them bigatures, which are basically miniatures but large scale. So you can get. He wanted to get the camera in and have all the little detail. With Minas Tirith and Helm's Deep. And...
I'd get excellent use of those bigatures. By the way,
yes,
like
and a lot
seamless,
of it,
seamless.
And a lot of it. Well, we're just going into it now, aren't we? We're going into...
we're just going into
it now. We're
my last of my facts, just quickly. The first one and the third one did really well at the Oscars, particularly the third one, which
11.
won 11. I think it's joint top for the most amount of Oscar wins.
Because it can't win the animated film.
You can't win the animated film. Return of the King won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best
Sound.
Sound,
Editing.
Makeup. Scott, he cleaned up, that year, and deservedly so. But I do think actually that those wins in 2004's Oscars, I do think that they were realistically a reflection of the whole trilogy.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We've had this discussion. Yeah.
Because
they were awarding and recognising the trilogy as a whole as an achievement.
Only the first and the third one were nominated for Best Picture. Two Towers was not nominated for Best Picture.
I don't know what was that year either.
I don't know what was that year. I can't remember. I did know, but I don't know now. But that's interesting. So anyway, why don't like you were saying, we'll just go into it.
First film, Fellowship of the Ring.
The first film, Fellowship of the Ring.
Go on, let's break it down in terms of its own box office.
So its own particular box office, released on the 19th of December, 2001.
Not a summer film.
Not a summer film. Winter film.
Interesting.
It's Christmas. Christmas time, really.
Was this the first instance of modern non-summer blockbusters?
I think so. I can't really think
this
of
was
anything.
The one that booked the trend because guys like, obviously in the history of cinema, the first technically recognised, so when you talk about summer blockbusters, Jaws was the first one.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, then Star Wars come out in the summer. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was your big films come out in the summer, but now...
A Star Wars film now, when do they always come out?
December.
In December. Always a December.
Because the summer thing doesn't exist anymore.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing anymore. Like Marvel releasing 3 films in a year. They call it a tentpole film now.
Yeah.
A big studio film instead of... I'm just making one big film per year, and that comes out in the height of fucking June or May, before.
Exactly. And so that's interesting. You're absolutely good point, that Chris. I've not really thought about it, but yeah, absolutely.
Facts.
Yeah, for probably one of the first.
I think it was
big film like this to be released in December. Probably not the only first one ever, but the first one I can think of that I like
in terms of booking the trend of it has to come out in the summer.
So its actual financials, it had a budget of 93 million. It made domestically 316 million. Just domestic, just domestic, and internationally a further 582.1 million. So for an overall.
Guys, I know
overall
we're
box
used
office
to
of
figures
898.2 million.
Back then, that was fucking huge.
That
fucking huge.
Enormous amounts of money back then.
Huge.
People were looking at that. I bet Harvey Weinstein was literally wanted to kill himself and maybe should have. Do you know what I mean?
He was crying hanging out the back of some bird.
Dirty bastard. But yeah, wow, that amount of money. Mega fucking money. New Line must have just got flawed. Absolutely fucking flawed, because they'll have never made anything that made that kind of money.
They were a small production house, mate.
And again, that just adds to the.
They dabbled with just before this. They did dabble with Blade. They made Blade.
Yeah.
You know, the Wesley Snipes series of Marvel things. Yeah. So
I like first Blade.
They went from in the 80s. From the very first film was pretty much a Nightmare on Elm Street, and then they didn't get carried away. They just built it bit by bit by bit by bit.
Yeah.
And then this come along and they went, fuck me, that was a good idea, wasn't it?
Fuck me, that is that's mega money. Is that
fucking
that
huge.
Will have changed the game for New Line?
Yeah,
New Line will all of a sudden
become a big studio.
Yeah, all of a sudden would have been middling sized studio,
if that's small.
And then all of a sudden, bang! You want a big players on this.
You're a Warner Brothers. You're a fucking
Warner Brothers,
Pictures.
Disney kind of bang, huge studio. The Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. So, rather than giving you, its individual synopsis, we'll just give you, our thoughts, our takes.
So the plot is
It's the first third of the story, and it takes us from meeting each of our characters to when the Fellowship gets broken apart.
That's where it ends.
That's where it ends. Now, I've got a bit of a take on this film, which you know I do, don't you, Chris? And my take is that this film, The Fellowship of the Ring, out of all of them, is the best film, right? The most cohesive,
I agree.
Well told, well edited and well adapted out of the three stories that they've got. This is by far the best and I would say truest to its source material adaptation out of the three. And the reason that I say that it's the best film is very often I think if you were mental and you weren't really interested in watching the other two, you could watch this one and think, I've watched a good film, I'm not interested in carrying it on, but it has... The structure of it has its own beginning, middle, and end.
I agree.
And I think that's...
And it wraps up that leg of the story.
It wraps up the leg.
There is, even though it leaves it open, there is an ending to that leg of the story.
And...
You know, these characters die, go off with each other, and then... I think... Do you think your opinion of that is because everyone's together all the film?
I think so. I think
because from then on, you're following stories and characters individually.
Which is very much like the actual the story itself. From the breaking of the Fellowship, it does become a lot more episodic in its way.
And the timeline gets a little bit. Whereas when they're all together, that they're all on the same timeline.
And we discussed the other night. I think it's more clear the timescale that this takes place. You can see the transition.
We did talk about the whole.
You can see the transition from summer in the Shire to autumn. We're getting into Elrond's
and I hadn't thought about that until you said that.
And then when they're crossing the mountains, it's clearly winter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
What did we say the whole story? What's the time scale?
Well,
was it 18 months,
I would
2
say
years?
The whole story probably takes about 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
Not in the storybook. When Gandalf goes away in the actual book, when Gandalf goes away. He goes away for about 10, 15 years or something like that and comes back. Frodo's literally over a decade older when he comes back, and he's just had the ring just like in a drawer. So this is where I'm saying it's one of the best adaptations because Peter Jackson has fantastically realised what needs dropping out of this story and what needs keeping in.
Well, what keeps the story moving forward? That's all you need.
Yeah, and he's understood that perfectly. The pacing of the Fellowship of the Ring, I think, again, why I say it's the best film. It might not be everyone's favourite, but the pacing of it is flawless.
Yeah.
It's moving forward, constantly moving forward.
Yeah, everything has a purpose in the story.
Because I just want to briefly talk about, there's a very famous character in the lore of Lord of the Rings.
I know what you're going to say.
Called Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
And he appears in the first book. And clearly Tolkien kept him in the story because he was so enamoured with the character, and he is a fun character, but he's an absolute pace killer. In the actual story, the plot just stops and they spend days just fannying about with Tom Bombadil, and he shows them some interesting things. And he knew...
But that's padding.
It is padding, and that's the sort of thing you can get away with in a storybook. But Peter Jackson absolutely recognised that you don't need that. You do not need that. Keep the story moving forward with its main plot, and it is laser focused on the main plot. Is Fellowship of the Ring?
Yeah, I agree.
Much more so than the other ones. The other ones do. I'm not having a go at them, but they have a slight more tendency to wander off the point slightly.
Even more so as they go on.
So
the Return of the King is the worst culprit.
It wanders off the plot. We meander away from the main thing, but it is laser focused on it. And I do think you're right. It's very much because of how that part of the story is structured. It's the coming together of your fellowship and then setting
you're
off
on their journey with them.
You're on their journey with them. So it's got the easiest through line of all of them.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's a really fascinating part of it, that he knew what to drop, he knew what to keep in, and he's done it each of the important moments with such style and execution, so well executed that we go from the Shire to basically the incident at Bree, where you essentially have to rescue Frodo because he gets stabbed on Weathertop, and then you have to the chase scene.
Yeah. You said that. That's you're a big fan of that.
I'm big fan of the chase scene. There's Arwen, Elrond's daughter, comes. Liv Tyler. She's really good in this one. She's got a much smaller part in the others, but she rescues him, and I would say that is the best horse chase I've ever seen on.
And she casts a
cinema,
spell.
and she does cast a spell
with the wraiths, the ring wraiths,
and that is, again, he knew exactly how to adapt this story for a modern audience, because it's not Liv Tyler's character in the book.
Yeah, you said that. I didn't know that.
It's a totally different character called Glorfindel, who's just a one and done character, and he comes and he saves Frodo. But they decide to give Arwen some actual character development and an action scene of her own with that horse chase.
And it links her, it introduces her as a significant player in the story.
Whereas she's not. She's basically damsel princess in the,
because you know it's strong female characters and the whatnot.
But I think she is exactly a strong female character done right. She's not a
warrior. She's not a
warrior, and she's not a flake. And she does have that moment where she's like, "I'm gonna have to fight them," and draws a sword and great line. If you want him, come and claim him.
Bang.
Do you know what I mean? Bang. And then she realised, oh, there's a river here.
I've
got a water spell that I could use on her. Like, and she can't, and it's her father Elrond in the book who casts that spell.
I think in that scene, it is urgency.
Yeah, and just going onto it, in that scene and so many others, the score,
amazing.
the music, Christine, the music.
Amazing. Howard Shore, this again, I do agree with you, Mark, and we've had this discussion, guys, not long ago when we were discussing doing this show. Howard Shore's score it's as soon as it come out, it felt like it's always been around. It's like a John Williams score, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Or an Ennio Morricone is instantly recognisable.
It is, and it
embraced.
It fits every scene that it's in. So to again maybe dwell on it a little bit, but during that chase scene, that chase scene, it's the Nazgul's theme, the Black Riders after him. And they're chasing after her, and she's like, you've got to stay awake. Don't go.
The music fits the imagery perfect.
Fits so well, and you
a sign of a fantastic score, masterful.
During the battle in the mines, you know what I mean, where it's like, when they have a cave troll, like the famous line, "Oh, they have a cave troll." That it fits it so well. There's thumping music all the way through. And then when
I think what there's a lot of texture to the score as well, mate. Because if you listen, and what he does is Howard Shore takes a location and gives it its own theme.
Gives it its sound. That the sound of the Shire.
With the whistle,
that is so good because I'm from a much more rural part of country than you are, city boy here.
100%.
Right, I sometimes think of home where I'm from. Do you know what I mean? Like in Yorkshire, I sometimes think of the moors. And it's perfect. It fits the Shire.
Yes,
the Shire. It's an English county.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it evokes that. Mate, he knew what he was doing. And once again,
because a lot of them have almost like a Midlands accent, almost like a country bumpkin mixture.
I have to say as well, the use of accents and language in the acting choices made. Sam's accent, fantastic. He does Sean Astin. He does a West Country accent. He don't you lose him, Samwise Gamgee? And you go, oh no, Mr. Frodo. And you go, beautifully well done, because he's a working class farmer boy. Where do you think of? You think of places like Devon and Cornwall and stuff. Don't you lose him, Samwise Gamgee? And because
it's like in again, I kind of have to reference some like Game of Thrones where the north, it's supposed to be the north of England, like you bastard. You know what I mean? It's like Bradford and above.
Merry, he's got a slightly more Northern English accent. Like, what's going on? Dominic Monaghan. But because Frodo, he's quite posh for a hobbit.
Yeah,
he's well to do. He's a gentleman.
Yes.
Because in the book, Sam is expressly his servant. In this film, Again, knew how to adapt this story for a modern audience, because in the book, Sam is expressly his servant. He is his manservant.
But
and he hints at that. He's always calling him Mr. Frodo.
Yeah.
He never calls him just Frodo.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Frodo all the way through. But
that's the point.
All the way through the story, Frodo sends Sam off to do this. Oh, Sam, go and collect some water, because he's his servant.
Yeah.
So Elijah Wood's character is a little bit posh. Is Elijah Wood's character?
I think accents. I
like that.
Plays a big part.
It's beautifully done.
But talking about accents, I just want to move on to actually describing the characters, especially of the Fellowship.
Yeah.
So, like you say, the Frodo is very well-to-do.
He is quite well-to-do.
But he's also, because of Bilbo, his relative who's been on these adventures. He's always had that since he's growing up, and he's like, is there, everything is fine where it is, but how interesting would it be to have an adventure?
Yeah, and you can tell that he wants to. But I do think as well, it's fantastic that he has a bit more reluctance than Bilbo.
Yes.
He's a normal person.
Yeah.
Frodo.
Aragorn, he's the stoic, measured, strong, headstrong character who knows, like, this is the path I'm on, and he's very loyal to the cause.
Yeah.
Sean Bean, who plays Boromir, we learn more about his character in flashbacks where he's maybe not as noble.
Yeah.
And he's more self-serving a little bit on the journey because he's trying,
But Boromir's arc in this, because this is the only one where he's alive, spoilers.
Yeah, he gets killed at the end. Typical Sean Bean.
It's a great redemption arc.
Yeah.
Because Boromir
Bit of a silly scene, if I'm honest.
A touch silly.
That's in my... I do have a list of my favourite scene and least favourite scene in each film.
It's melodramatic. It is melodramatic. But, as well, I would say to that, it is a high fantasy. If you can't inject a little bit of melodrama into a high fantasy...
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Sean Astin plays Sam. Now, I've said to you, I think he's the heart of the film, Sam.
And... I don't know whether I said to you, but I definitely said to someone.
Loyal to a man because of his part. There's a lot of love and... Do you know what I mean?
We'll come back to love. Themes, love is one there. These characters love each other. They are friends, but they love each other. Yeah. And there's
that's
real
all you've
bond.
got. You've got to rely on each other in that situation, haven't you?
And... I was going to say about Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee, because Ian McKellen was nominated for the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Fellowship, but I would have been quite happy to see Sean Astin on that. He's fantastic. He is absolutely fantastic.
Talking about Ian McKellen, Gandalf, he just...
He's got, like I said earlier, he's got out, go home.
Smashes it. And I think, Gandalf is obviously the... What does he represent in the trilogy of films in terms of character?
Well, he represents the old, wise, but
he looks in for guidance.
Yeah, he is the guy. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the film.
Yeah.
Of the film.
Yeah. He's their only hope.
He is their only hope. And Ian McKellen plays it with such there's depth. There's real depth
again
to
because
it.
He's treaded the boards and he's a stage actor.
But he's noble, but he's also what I love about Gandalf. He's a touch irritable. Very irritable. One of my favourite scenes is when Pippin knocks the thing down in the Mines of the Moria.
And he looks at him.
And his famous thing where he goes to it, and he says, "Fool of a took." Do you know what I mean? And he spits it out with genuine venom.
Like, prick.
And, do you know what I mean? And he bullies Sam. He bullies Sam all the way through. Gets him carrying these pots. Yeah. Keep up, Samwise.
Come on.
Do you know what I mean? He's so good in it. He's both light-hearted, deep, heavy, strong, but at times questions himself as well. He's a tour de force from Ian McKellen. It's absolutely...
Hats off, sir.
Do you know what I mean? He is the servant of the secret fire in this.
And then we've got Gimli, played by John Rhys-Davies. He also does the voice of Treebeard, one of the Ents. And Gimli's the snappy line character, the funny lines.
He is. But I would say that this is his best in this compared to the other two.
He gets more action as he goes on. He gets to fight more
But he becomes a little bit more comedic, whereas he's actually got important things to say in this film.
He likes to have his opinion heard.
And he will have his opinion heard.
Orlando Bloom, Legolas. And what did you say Legolas represents the...
Yeah, good. Well, he's the Elvish, he's the
exposition.
He's Mr. Exposition, isn't he? Crows from Dunland.
Yeah.
And they're like, right, good. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's what that is.
That's who that is. He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn. You owe him your allegiance. Thanks, Mr. Exposition Man. Thanks for explaining that.
And then you've got Billy Boyd as Pippin.
What about second breakfast?
What second breakfast?
Second breakfast. What about Elevenses? Again, great. He is in the first film a comic relief character.
Out of his depth as well as a character. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he doesn't realise the enormity.
He's the one who says, "Oh yeah, it's my cousin, it's Frodo Baggins."
Yeah.
Over there, he's no idea what he's doing.
And Merrin is they're the double act.
But Merry, and it is expressed in the thing. Merry's the clever one, Pippin's the stupid one. Do you know what I mean? And to get Merry all the way through.
Smoking weed?
So to get smoking weed.
Smoke weed
every day.
They smoke weed in it, literally.
And
he even says that it's messing with your mind.
Yeah,
he says it.
Saruman. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Christopher Lee.
I'm getting onto that.
Okay. But yeah, that line where your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly dulled your mind.
Smoking weed?
Yeah, smoke weed every day.
Ian Holm's Bilbo Baggins.
He's played Bilbo Baggins before.
Was that?
Yeah, on the Lord of the Rings radio adaptation, he was Bilbo Baggins,
and he's the
late 70s, early 80s, in the BBC radio production of it. He was. I only found that out today, and I was like, oh, go on. Yeah, Ian Holm.
Didn't know that. Liv Tyler Arwen, good character. She's again the
really good character.
They've
built her up properly.
Hugo Weaving as a Dad Elrond.
See,
Mr. Anderson.
He's the member of the cast that I'm most surprised by. Not that he's not a good actor. Everyone knows Hugo Weaving's a good actor. What I think,
but everyone wasn't. He's Matrix, isn't he?
He's the only
Agent
one where
Smith in the
when
Matrix.
You look at the cast, you think he don't fit.
Yeah.
And then you watch him, and he plays it so well. He does it so well.
Does it?
But he's the one where I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's a swerve.
And his type of character in the film is very much
his authority figure.
Authoritative, yeah. And he's a bit expositioner.
Yeah. The ring cannot be destroyed by any craft we have here, Gimli, son of Glory, and it must be taken...
and he twats it with his hammer.
Yeah, he must be taken back deep into Mordor and cast back into the fiery chasm from whence it came.
Kate Blanchett as Galadriel. She gives it gravitas, her performance.
She does give it gravitas. She opens it.
Yeah, narration at the beginning. Great sequence at the beginning.
That as well is how you do a prologue.
Yeah,
bang.
It gives you everything you need to know.
Brilliant, fantastic narration by Kate
Big
Blanchett.
War at the beginning, huge war.
The last alliance of men and elves. And what I think is fantastic about her voice swells. It starts. The world has changed, but by the time you get into the battle,
the darkness,
when you get to the ending, then Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword. Do you know what I mean? And it's so fantastic.
Yeah, she gives a lot her performance gravitas and importance,
and you feel, if you think about it, for this first film, she's not in it for very long.
No, she's not,
but you feel like she's a member of the main cast. That is the level of gravitas that she gives to the part.
I agree.
Even so good when they meet, they go to Lothlorien and she gives it.
I've got to go and see her for advice.
Yes, and she gives it an air of darkness, like, I see you, Frodo of the Shire.
Because the thing what we haven't mentioned is the rings, it's an evil thing, the ring. It corrupts, power corrupts.
Yeah, the ring itself is truly evil. And I just wanted to quickly go on about the ring. Because what is often called by people is a MacGuffin now, and a MacGuffin in... A film term is basically a thing that you need to start the plot off, but itself doesn't particularly matter. It's just the catalyst for the plot. Do you know what I mean? I know what you mean. Yeah, go get the magic thingy bobs, and the magic thingy bobs will sort everything out. But the story's not actually about the magic thingy bobs; it's the journey to get to it.
Yes.
Whereas the ring in this is central to the plot all the way through. All the way through. Because what is the point of it? If Frodo tries to give it to Gandalf. Here, take it. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you can't tempt me with that, because what would happen to him if he took over it? He could take over the world. Galadriel expressly says the same thing. Instead of a Dark Lord, you'll have a queen.
Yeah.
And no, Frodo's got to take it, because the worst that'll happen to him is he'll end up like Gollum.
Yeah.
So it's the central point of the thing. It's evil, and it has a character of its own.
Yes,
it's wanting to it wants to get back to its lord, to the Dark Lord, and it will give him power.
Yeah,
one ring to rule.
And the only way that he can see her is if you put the ring on.
Because
you enter into that.
Yeah.
Also, another dimension almost.
And the ring gives him the power to be invisible, but it also makes him visible to the Dark Lord and his servants as well.
Talking about the effects of the ring, Andy Serkis as Gollum.
Oh yeah, well he don't really appear so much in the first one.
But
moving on, yeah.
But he does, and he's the one that he gets captured, by the orcs and tortured, and he's like Hobbit.
He said Shire hobbits. Shire Baggins.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But great performance.
Fantastic. Again, changed it.
From overseas.
Yes. And mate, the thing is about Gollum, that in the wrong hands, an inch to either way, and would have had another Jar Jar Binks on his hands. Yeah. You know what I mean? Instantly annoying.
He's just as much of a character than one of the human characters in the film.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis, and that performance that comes through, that CG character.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very good. And again, like you say, it is only hinted at. You don't even. You see his eyes. You see his eyes in the light in the cave, because as Galadriel is explaining the story. She said that it corrupted a man once.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to this if you're... Because he was a hobbit, wasn't it? The
flashback,
he was essentially you do see him
as
a hobbit. And then this is the last cast member I'm going to talk about in terms of what character they bring and how their character fits into the story. Is Christopher Lee as Saruman.
Yeah. Mate, He's another absolutely fantastic addition to the cast,
and I think he plays it well, because you think he's a friend, but he's not. It's only after you finish the story you go, he was fucking corrupt from before we met him in the film. The darkness had already...
Obviously, the darkness had taken him when we meet him, and it's almost immediate.
He becomes another weapon of the Dark Lord.
Yeah,
an ally.
And
don't say why.
It does it. It don't say why. It does it. It does in the story, but there's I don't think particularly it's terribly important. I think realistically, they're just sort of saying... I think
you have to have a foil for Gandalf.
You have to have a foil
because he's
for
so
Gandalf.
Powerful. And you have to see, because when them wizards die, they change colour, don't they? So he becomes Gandalf. When Gandalf dies, spoiler alert, halfway through this, the Fellowship, he becomes Gandalf the White. So Christopher Lee's character, Saruman, he's already a white version of himself.
Yeah,
so therefore more powerful.
Yeah, and he does. He kicks Gandalf's ass.
He does.
Smashes him about. Oh, that as well. Are you listening, people who make Harry Potter films? That's how you do a wizard's fucking duel with magic powers. That. I like it. I really like it.
A lot of spinning around.
There is a lot of spinning around, but
they're all guys. Those right. I get that, but I put it as not one of the best parts for me.
No, I really like that duel between them. Really like it's really well acted between both of them.
So, talking about what's our favourite scene and what scenes we didn't like, I think Gandalf takes on the Balrog in Khazad-dûm.
It's got to be one of the
great sequence.
It's one of the most iconic scenes, right from when the Balrog first appears, and you hear it, that rumble, and Sean Bean says, "What new devilry is this?" And Gandalf says, "This is beyond any of your run.
Yeah.
He's just run, and they have to leg it.
And that shot where you see him from far away, and you just see the
huge panel shot.
pillars, just the pillars, and they're just running and running.
It's so good. And
that
then
fight's great.
And when the Balrog appears, and Gandalf's like, "I've got to stop. I've got to stop him. I've got to stop." And possibly one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema with "You shall not pass."
Yeah. Well, it become part of pop culture, mate.
It literally did. Like people say, "You shall not pass."
And
like,
I bet he
recognises that as well.
Yeah, probably his most famous line out of anyone that would know anything. Of his.
Yeah. But literally, that scene.
Great.
I think it's one of my favourites. I think it's tied with the chase. I absolutely love that chase.
Boromir's last stand.
I get what you mean when you say it's a little bit. It's the touch on the hammy side.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it because it's a piece of melodrama in a very melodramatic genre.
Yeah.
But I can see that a touch boop on the nose about it.
About 1,000 arrows and he's still slow-mo in.
Yeah.
But again, I understand that was his choice because you know the character. It's almost a redemption thing, like you say. I get that.
Yeah.
But
I think
could have done it slightly better.
I think the one of my least is for me is when Galadriel is talking to Frodo in the mirror.
Oh, the pool,
And the CG looks ropey. Now, when she turns into like
it's like a blue and
woman, a
black.
bluey green. I don't think that's in any way Kate Blanchett's fault.
No.
It's just the time.
Yeah, the choice of representing her, showing.
And she goes very deep, and it's quite hard to understand what she's saying.
I can see that.
I know what she says because I know the script, but like, do you know what I mean?
I get that. Yeah, I'll give you that.
But it's a bit.
Yeah, all right.
Say again, Kate.
Yeah.
You gabbled it a bit, but I think that's the only scene. But like, great scenes throughout, iconic, and I would say in this one, it's got the most quotable lines from it. You shall not pass. Shadow and flame, and do you know what I mean? Is it secret? Is it safe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? All of that.
Second breakfast.
Yes, it's second breakfast. It does have the way. Are you frightened, Mr. Baggins? Not nearly frightened enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Most quotable thing.
And mostly off Gandalf as well. Have you noticed that the first one? Most of the best lines of Gandalf.
Like, fool of a two.
Yeah, there you go.
But that is not the end of the story.
No, that is just merely the beginning.
Merely the beginning. There is a second film. So the second film came out almost exactly a year later. 364 days later.
Nice.
Came out on the 18th of December 2002. Did the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers. It had a budget of pretty much the same, 94 million. Ever so slightly more. Touch more. It made domestically 340 million and made internationally 596 million, making a total box office of 936 million.
Mega money.
It's mega money.
Mega
we
money.
don't need to retread it, but again, new line just there. Gobsmacked. Smack the gob.
Again!
Another one. But they were more expecting it this time because obviously...
Well, you've got your audience now.
You've got your audience. And, mate, I remember going to fucking see this film and everyone was there. I went to go see it, 2 or 3... I went to see it near Christmas.
Oh, right, okay.
2 or 3 weeks after. And the cinema was still hammered.
Yeah, hammered. Yeah, I went, mate, I seen them all at the cinema.
Do you know, I saw them all at the cinema, but... like Fellowship it just felt like a normal thing at the pictures. Two Towers, totally different.
Everyone's on it.
Everyone's on it. Man, dog, woman, human hobbit, like, do you know what I mean? They're all over it.
LBTGQ.
Yeah, we were all
Everyone.
there. We were all there. And so I think that's it. That's very interesting about it.
Well, again, from the numbers of the first one, you're like, well, we're just gonna make
the same money, aren't we? Really?
Yeah.
Because I would say about this film, I've other things to say about it in terms of the strength of the film.
I mean,
well, in terms of quality, it's same again. We're talking the same level of quality.
And this is probably out of the three of them. I've probably watched this. I think, and I've said this is my favourite one out of the three.
I think it's a lot of people's favourite out of the three, which, by the way, is quite interesting because in terms of awards and nominations, it is the least nominated and the least winning of all. But
I can see why.
I can see why. I think they were saving the wins for the end of the.
I'm not talking. I mean, it's. I mean, we've said this before. You know, it's the purpose of that one is to continue the journey of the first one, but then you're on the path to the end.
Yeah.
So I get.
It is.
I'm not saying it's an Empire level of middle film.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I think in terms of a trilogy. I do actually think in terms of the structure of the film, this actually might be the weakest one.
I agree, because all this film serves its purpose is the Battle of Helm's Deep. That's all it's leading to.
It is the heart of the film.
And I think the Battle of Helm's Deep represents the force you're dealing with. It introduces the full force of evil you're dealing with, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's the scope of it, the scale of it.
Magnificently. The Battle of Helm's Deep.
It took them 4 months to film that.
No, I know.
Night shoots, constant night shoots. 4 months. No wonder the budget was slightly more.
Slightly more, you know what I mean?
Need to get this shot, need to do it that way. Oh, fuck, camera's gone down and 4 months. That's a very... Some films don't even take that long to make. Yeah,
for one sequence. And it is a very long sequence.
Very long.
So, all right, I'll just talk about what I think about the structure of it. Now, it's not the film's fault, but in terms of the story, it's like you were saying, it is just the middle.
I know,
of
I get
story.
that. I do see that.
So it doesn't have any lead. Right from the first scene with Bang, we're already in it. Strider and Legolas and Gimli are running. Where are they going? They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. And literally.
We're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
A deep cut from the old internet.
There. Oh yeah, that's it. The early YouTube days.
Early YouTube days. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. But so I think it does suffer from that a touch, which is why, although I think it's a lot of people's favourite because of its set piece sequence.
I agree, and I think for me it offers what I get out of it that the Fellowship doesn't give me is it's more scope in terms of locations and again. I just like it more than the...
No, I can definitely understand that, why people would like it more. Like I've said to you before, I don't, but I can definitely see the scope of it is larger. The action scenes in it are bigger.
Yes.
Bigger, and in a totally another world kind of bigger from the first film, which all of the battle scenes, really, if you think about it, in the first film are quite... They're in a much smaller scale. They're in Moria, essentially.
And quite short in sequence.
Quite short. Whereas this, you do really realise that this is a battle for their lives in this film, because they're constantly thrown overwhelming odds at them in pretty much every sequence of the film.
Also, as well, not the ending of Fellowship is the last time they're all together until the very end of Return of the King.
Very, very, very end. And this is where the film splits off into two interconnected but deeply separate storylines.
Yes.
You've got Frodo and Sam, and you've got, he said, well, 3 really, because you've got what Merry and Pippin are doing as well. And you've also got what Gandalf, Gimli, Aragorn, and
because they are trying to they're trying to raise the alarm now.
Yeah, they're very
we need an alliance.
Yeah, we need the alliance of men to come together, and essentially that's how we begin the film. We're going to Rohan.
Yeah,
that's the first kingdom that we're going to go to, and Rohan is going to have to fight Isengard, which is Saruman's faction. Which, if you look at the map,
which the Uruk-hai and the Orcs,
are.
Don't you think it is a weird one, mate? Right, it never explains how they create their monsters. They just
well, it does.
They just come out the ground. How do you make them?
Well, magic in it, but like. Orcs were made essentially where they bred corrupted men and elves together, but then they make the Uruk-hai by breeding them with something else. I can't remember. But again, I don't.
They just come out of these Matrix-style cocoon things out the ground.
Who do you serve?
Oh, the White Hand. Yeah.
Saruman's.
He brands every single one.
Yeah. I do think as well.
Isn't this where that shot of him, Christopher Lee's fucking character, Saruman, with Wormtongue on the tower, and even Wormtongue gives an expression of going, "Fucking hell, the scale."
No,
you know when you actually see the army outside his tower.
Yeah, and
because that's the two towers. It's Saruman and Sauron's towers.
Yeah,
they're
the two towers. The Tower of Orthanc, which is Isengard, and the tower which is Sauron's Eye. The Dark. They are the two towers that we're dealing with. That is a little bit later when Wormtongue's obviously been cast out of Rohan.
Because he's cast a spell, hasn't he, on fucking Bernadil Theoden.
Yeah, on Theoden.
He's like aged him, he's just a mumbling mess. He's like blind.
Yeah, and Gandalf has to come and break him out of it to break Theoden out of his trance.
Fucking forces it. It's almost like an exorcism almost.
It is. That is precisely what it is. Yeah. And again, done really well in the... It's done a bit more wibbly in the book,
right?
Like just sort of casts out the dark shadows or whatever it is, but it is very much
like an incantation. But this is a proper
bang. He pushes Saruman out of him. I think with this one as well, it had a fine line to tread because we've got to maintain the story of all our previous characters, but we've got a clutch of brand new characters.
Yes. Like saying the Rohan
with the Rohan faction.
Eowyn, and obviously it goes to.
So we've got Eowyn, Theoden, and Eomer to introduce, and obviously Grima Wormtongue as well. All to introduce. I think with this varying levels of successes. Now, Bernard, what's his face, who plays Bernadil. When he's broken out of the thing,
ride.
That's it. Third film.
I know,
but still,
that's his moment in this trilogy.
It is absolutely ride to ruin.
Brilliant.
Great speech. Once he's broken out of it, he plays this fantastically. He is the king with all of his burdens on him, but he's a leader. He is a true leader of men, and he plays that absolutely
good actor, Bernadil, mate.
Good
Boys
actor.
From the Black Stuff.
Got a lot of time for him. Got a lot of time for him, and
she's and again it introduces Miranda Otto's character Eowyn, and she plays an important part again in Return. Characters introduce this, they give him the payoff. Every character gets the fucking payoff, though, innit? Obviously, you're wrapping up the story.
But I really like her in this as well. She's even in that. This is the one though where she gets the most lines.
But she's. Why can't I have a go?
Yeah, but that's her arc, isn't it?
Yeah,
like that is her arc.
Yeah, and when you do give her a go, she ends up killing her eighth.
Yeah, the main one,
the main one,
the Witch King.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit like sort of I'll dress up as a man and we'll go and we'll fight.
Mulan.
Do you know what I mean? It does have shades of Mulan.
It's not there, man.
It's not there.
It's not there, Mulan.
Again, she's again in the book because Tolkien don't really write many women. They're the only two women in the entire fucking of Middle Earth, like
apart from Galadriel, yeah.
Apart from Galadriel, she's a bit more wefty in the book. They do hammer up a little bit, although she still does have a moment. In the book.
Right, yeah.
But they introduce her, but I think that the weakest one that they introduce is Éomer, the lad on the
yeah. Isn't it a brother?
It's her
cousin.
No, it's her. It's her brother. They're the niece and nephew of the king.
Yeah,
because the king's son dies off
screen. Yeah.
Well, you see his body in the extended cut.
I forgot about
that. Yeah, he drops his sword. He drops it. He drops his sword out of it. It's still in the theatrical cut of the thing. He gets on his horse, and his sword follows. Yeah,
movie mistake.
Yeah, and famously that he gets on his horse. He's talking to Aragorn, and his sword falls out of his hilt. Literally, just goes plop, and everyone's there like, move on. Move on.
Booming.
Yeah.
Booming.
But yeah, I just think in the theatrical cut of the film and even in the extended cut, it doesn't get a lot of character development, and I think it's a bit of a problem with this particular
one. He's an actor as well. He's in the boys, and he was Judge Dredd, mate. He's Judge Dredd. I got some out of that, mate.
I rate him.
Yeah, I do. Carl Urban, decent.
And he's good in this. So I'm not shading his acting. I think
not a big part for him to play though.
This isn't a big part. When you're talking about the Rohirrim, so the Rohan faction,
the Riders,
yeah, it's Theoden. Theoden is the one you to
the leader,
yeah, and the only one that I feel was visually quite weak, although he plays it well, is
they've almost segregated themselves off from where, because physically they live on a hill basically, don't they?
And they're
very bitter against
Gondor and against everybody really, because Rohan's one of those countries essentially that's just in the middle of everything. They're getting attacked all the time. The orcs are there. Gondor's doing the square root of fuck all to help them out all the time. Where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? Do you know what I mean? That's the line in the thing. Like,
that's a bitter line. Bitter.
Where were they?
Yeah.
Where were they? Yeah. Oh, we'll go out then.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got to fight this war, defend all my people here in Helm's Deep, and now march and sort them out because they can't fucking sort it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I do think that's it. It's good. But he does occasionally hammer the point.
Is Theoden your favourite character in this film?
Theoden's my favourite character.
Okay, interesting. I can see why. You made a very compelling argument.
Yeah, I think Theoden is the best part of this film. Maybe not best part of this film, but I think it's a brilliant performance from
Bernardo, yeah.
And he's a great character in it. I just think with the Two Towers, despite all of its glory of it,
do you think it's more not necessarily a more spectacle film?
I think
maybe you see that as its downfall
a little bit, for the simple fact of
which all right, okay, I can see it.
I just think we hammer the Helm's Deep part of it, and I think to the express detriment of Frodo and Sam's story.
But then they get their...
They get more in the third film.
But I think what they compensated that with is the introduction of Gollum.
Yes.
The third wheel, yes. The dynamic in that then.
And like we said just earlier, Gollum, that character, an inch either way.
Yeah, I agree.
If he'd have played it a little bit more comedic, most annoying character in the film.
Wouldn't have worked.
If they'd have played him a bit darker,
no,
a needless addition into the film. He's
shade,
razor.
The shade.
He's the razor line. Yeah. They dance the line with that, and they never once step
and I think
off of it.
And again, I think you see flashes of the pure darkness that has overtaken him, but then when you don't see that, you see the humanity there.
Mate, they've got one of my favourite scenes in this film is the talk between the two sides of Gollum when he's talking to each
brilliant
other.
In the cave.
Brilliant,
yeah, brilliant.
When he's like,
and he's like,
no, no, you can't
yeah,
kill the
yeah.
bastard.
Yeah.
Like he's nice to us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The good side and the bad side, brilliantly well done. Of this person who is
good shout.
Is totally split between these two, and I'm not saying that Helm's Deep isn't worth it because it's a fantastic sequence.
Yes, brilliant.
And
one of the best battles.
One of the best battles ever filmed.
Yeah.
Although one extraordinarily goofy scene. The guy with the torch who basically kamikazes himself into the...
And he just runs into the...
Yeah.
Yeah. The way they actually blow a hole in the wall.
Daftest scene.
What does he say about when he worm-tongues over his shoulder? What does he say? Fire undo stone.
Yeah, fire undo stone.
Because he moves back his torch when he's peeking over him. He's like moves his thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, daft scene. When he runs to blow up the wall, I always just want to play the fucking Chariots of Fire music.
Oh, Vangelis.
Yeah, do. But I'd also say Wormtongue's character, a little bit... Oh, he's obviously a bad guy. I don't know how anyone in the room doesn't see that. He looks like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like... You'd immediately walk into the room like, who's the snaky guy?
Sneaky bastard.
Who's the snaky fucking...
He's hunched and he's over and he's...
And I get it, but boop on the nose.
Yeah, well...
Boop.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, Peach.
I'll tell you what did annoy me in this, the whole... the Entmoots, the Entis, the trees, and they're all like, it takes a very long time.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
but you're dying.
I have to say some of the goofier parts of this film are actually taken directly from the source material.
Okay.
I do think that needs to be pointed out sometimes. Sometimes when people talk about the goofier parts of this film, they make out as if like, oh, that's as Peter Jackson, we're adding some stuff. The goofier parts of the film,
really,
I would say are directly taken from... Because basically, The Lord of the Rings, though it's more adult from The Hobbit, it's a kid's book. At the end of it,
yeah, all right,
yeah.
It's easy to forget. It's not a serious piece.
Yeah, it's easier to forget
fantasy.
that this is a world with fucking fairies and wizards in it and shit. Like, do you know what I mean?
Come on,
like so you walk in trees. It does. I just feel like this film isn't paced as well as the first film, and it does.
No, I agree.
It just isn't. Although. The sum of its parts to me don't add up to the same great cohesive whole, but those parts are in many ways better.
Again, I do see your point. I really, really do. So my favourite line out of this one is, "Would you like me to find you a box?" Legolas and Gimli on the foot, and he can't see.
He can't see.
He's like, "How many is there? What's going on?" And he's like, "Would you like me to find you a box?"
Great development of those two characters, of developing a friendship, because in the first one they don't like each other because it's about race, the elves and the dwarves.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's the race thing.
And it's learning to be friends with people even though you're quite different from them. Again, not forgetting this is essentially a young person's fairy tale
about accepting people for being different. And how can you help each other when
and
you really need help?
You really need each other. What do? You build a friendship, and I think this is the film where you see Legolas and Gimli's friendship. Because mate,
Andy going 13, 14. They both counting. They're trying to one up each other. So there's a buddiness there.
Yeah, we're building a real friendship. This is also the one where
Legolas,
Aragorn sliding down.
Bit dodgy, mate. Let's put it
right.
there.
In the first film, he's just a really, really good archer.
Yeah.
In the third film, we're sliding down fucking stairs on shields, shooting everyone else.
He does it on the fucking. He slides. He actually. The money shot where he slides towards the camera down that big mammoth thing.
Oh, in third film.
In Return of the King, yeah.
Yeah, that slides down. Well, that's what I mean when... I'm going to
come on to that. I think he's the weakest character.
I wouldn't say he's the weakest character. Do you know, controversially, I think the weakest character is Jonathan Rhys-Davies as Gimli. Because it's not his fault, but they reduce him in many ways. Although he has good action moments, they reduce him to comic relief a little bit. Like, even when they're running at the beginning, the others are like, keep up, Gimli, and he's falling down because he's only
small.
Because he's only little. And although I absolutely love the line, it's a daft line when he was like, oh, dwarves, we can keep up. Very dangerous over short distances. Do you know what I mean? It's a great line. But
there's dwarf women.
There's dwarf women, and he makes people think that there actually are no dwarves women. They do reduce him a touch to comic relief.
I see that, I see that.
They bring him back a little bit in the third one, but it's like I was saying, out of all of his appearances in all three films, he is strongest in the third one.
I agree. I was just thinking that one. Then. Yeah.
Whereas... I think to a certain extent they give Legolas a little bit more to do in this one, whereas he was exposition man in the first one.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were both stronger or weaker than each other. They've simply swapped roles in terms of quality of both of them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I see that.
I think Rhys-Davies was stronger in
the first one, and then Legolas.
And Legolas slightly stronger for me in
Maybe
this one.
Maybe that's purposeful in the writing.
I've got quite possibly. But I do think, as a character, Legolas might be the weakest, because I get the impression that Tolkien wasn't much asked about the character either. He does nothing throughout. Well, he does all of the same things that he does.
He's just there, though.
But he's just there, and he just goes, that's happening. That he is all the way through all the way through the book. He is just exposition.
So I've swayed you a little bit.
You have swayed me a little bit.
To go, oh, actually, yeah, all right. But again, this is, I think, The Two Towers. I've watched it more than the other two, and it's my favourite out of the trilogy.
I think in many ways it's as long as you've got the grounding of the first one, I would say is the most eminently watchable, as long as you've already watched all three of them. If you know what I mean, because you know what's happening. You ain't got.
But it's like I think this is because I've seen the first one's the origin. I'm right. I know the origin. I want to get to the action, and I want to write the stories. It's
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's big things happening here, and we're taking leaps towards the end.
Yeah.
Because again, it is a bridge between what happened to them when it all went to shit, and what happens to them when they've all got to come together to, in their own storylines.
Yeah.
We're pushing it towards the end.
I don't want to give it a negative impression. This is still one of my favourite films of all time, is Two Towers. It's an absolute fucking fantastic film.
Facts.
I just... Like with Helm's Deep, it's just, they say that it is hopeless. We get it.
Oh, you've said this.
We get it.
We
get it.
Yeah.
Is it hopeless? You've said.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Get on with it, and they just fucking don't. It's not the battle itself, because the battle itself is fantastic, but we spend a good 20 minutes, fucking half an hour, like, get on
building.
It.
Yeah.
Get on with it now. And I'm afraid that does bug me. That kid, when they say that it is hopeless. Right. Good. You've been saying for 20 fucking minutes. Let them attack now. Thank you.
I can see them coming
They're there. They're there. They're there. We're fannying about outside. For fuck's sake. So, yeah. But everyone's still there. Everyone's still absolutely fucking playing top of their game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ian McKellen, again, great in it. Again, star player for me, fucking Bernadette is.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
And Andy Serkis as Gollum.
Yeah, I think he needs a special mention.
I absolutely think that scene where you see the two sides of Gollum, it's a fantastic scene. I would say that's my favourite scene. My least favourite scene is they say that it is hopeless. I can't stand that kid. I can't stand that kid. I'd kick him off the walls. Bang.
Get to fuck.
Yeah, get to fuck. We'll see how hopeless it is on the way down. Like,
so Return of the King.
Yes, so we'll get on with it.
The last part of the trilogy.
Return of the King. It cost, can you guess, 94 million.
Right, so roughly the same as the other two.
Exactly the same as Two Towers, and only just a smidgen more than Fellowship.
Yeah.
They literally split the budget. Three and three.
Yeah.
It made fucking drum roll for this.
Here we go.
It made overall 1.46 billion. That's billion with a B. Fuck me. That, and like I said earlier, only second film ever to break the billion mark at that point.
Yeah, I remember,
Do you know what I mean? Wow. It made domestically 378 million. So pretty similar to the others, but it's internationally where this film fucking ran away with it. 768 million.
Wow. And this is 2003.
Yeah.
This is 2003 money, Mark. This is viewing habits in 2003.
Because nowadays, that's what a modest success. Like, you know what I mean?
They're shitting themselves if they don't get a billion.
Yeah,
especially Marvel.
Especially Marvel or anything like that. But 768 million internationally for a total of one and a bit billion.
Wow. I bet literally Bob Shea shit himself.
He literally shot himself with joy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a billion. Like, our company's a billion dollar company. We've made the second $1 billion
highest grossing film of all time. At that point.
The second highest grossing film. Obviously been overtaken since.
And don't you think it's interesting? It's the last 20 years consist of the top 5 or 6. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't.
But I know obviously there's Avatar, Endgame, and
But wow, I know I'm dwelling on that, but those numbers just speak pure volumes of this, and I think that those numbers are reflective of the culmination of a success.
Yeah,
like great film, and then built upon by another great film, despite what it may have sounded like when I were talking about
No, not at all.
And then this third film is the culmination of everything.
Weakest film.
You would say this is the weakest film.
Yeah.
I can now, from what I've described, I think it won't surprise you to learn that I think Two Towers is probably the weaker film. But I can definitely... This has some of the goofiest things that happen ever in the history of film.
I mean, all 17 endings for a kick-off.
That gets on my nerves.
I know. I actually am done. I get to a certain point and I'm like, oh, I'm done now. I'll switch it off. I can switch it off now. I'm done.
They should get. You know how we were talking about.
You've got the Mount Doom sequence, Mark. You've got
the Mount Doom sequence is absolutely necessary. That's literally the end of the
that's the end.
thing.
And then they go back and he's recovering and they meet again and then they go to heaven. They go into heaven.
Yeah, they go to the Great
and then he gets crowned as king, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Right, to my mind, there is one scene which is a fantastic scene.
Go on.
At the end. So jumping straight to the end.
No, go on.
But when they've got back to the Shire and they're all sat in the pub at the end, and they're all just looking at each other like...
We've said this, yeah, I get what you're saying,
I've been out the cave now.
Yeah.
I can't go back.
The experiences, it's like PTSD.
Yeah, and
I think Tolkien wrote because of the war.
Yeah.
He wanted to say what when you've gone on, when you're involved in war, it changes you as a person.
Yeah.
The things you see and experience and the survival and the panic and the stress and the not knowing, Mark.
After Mount Doom, there's a whole other chapter of the fucking book. They go back to the Shire and it's all gone to shit.
Yeah,
and
right,
all four of them have to sort it out. Like Saruman's still there. He dies in this film, but he doesn't. He doesn't in the story.
Yeah.
He goes to the Shire.
Actually, you only see his death in the extended version.
Christopher Lee was fuming about that.
You don't see him die.
He was absolutely fuming, and I can absolutely see why.
Don't see him die, Mark.
No. They should have kept Christopher Lee's Saruman's death in this.
Yeah, because you have to show that he's defeated.
Christopher Lee fell out with Peter Jackson for a while.
You'd only see his body on the wheel in the extended version.
They had to convince him to go back to do The Hobbit because he was fuming with Christopher Lee, and he don't strike me as the sort of man that held grudges Christopher Lee, but he was not happy.
Fuming.
He was fuming.
Rightly so, because you should show that character be defeated.
And this is why I can see what you're saying, weakest one, especially the theatrical cut, because they cut a lot for the.
It's already a long film,
and what they cut were basically the wrapping up of the arcs of Saruman.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I've read somewhere, but I don't know if it's true, that Eowyn killing the Witch King is extended cut.
No, it's in the theatrical.
It is in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it pays off the can't be killed by any man.
Yeah.
And I'm not a man, I'm a woman, bang.
Yeah.
Stab you in the face, cunt.
What else do I think's quite weak?
The green ghosts.
They don't look great. Do they?
No, I know. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah,
green ghosts.
Yeah,
they're a bit like a fart going across the fields.
Yeah, it's
the scale of Minas Tirith, though's cool as fuck.
The what?
The scale of it.
Oh yeah,
Minas Tirith. Yeah. You should see the set they built for that. Yeah, huge, fucking
enormous.
Because the camera gets right in.
Yeah.
And again, it shows Peter Jackson's intelligence and inventive nature using the camera in this film.
I think
Aragorn's Blackgate speech.
Great.
Fantastic.
Great.
Again,
absolutely.
Again, giving that character
its payoff all the way through Two Towers is you can see the internal torment of him in Two Towers.
Because what we haven't mentioned is Aragorn. He's very he's known as this guy that's meant to be the king.
Yeah.
You know, and he's very reluctant. He's like, no, I'm just a drifter, and I don't want any. I don't want that. I've got my lifestyle, and I don't want it. And you're the son of
in the first film, he expressly rejects the call to it. In the second film, he's learning to come to terms with it.
Yes.
And in the third film is where he steps up.
Yeah.
And he becomes the king, and he takes up Isildur's sword.
They remake it for him?
The remake of it, Elrond remakes it for him, and he shows Saruman to use that Palantir, the crystal ball.
The fucking bowling ball.
Yeah. And he shows it to him. He literally shows it, and it shits Sauron up. He's like, fuck, and it's so well done in terms of like the plot thread of keep Sauron's eye on us.
Well, again,
to keep Frodo and Sam,
because by this point
they're deep in the weeds of it now.
They're on enemy lines, mate. They're behind enemy lines.
Yeah, they've crossed into Mordor. They have to go through Shelock's cave.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And when they're going through Shelock's cave,
like you say, the Shelob's cave's a good sequence.
Yeah, it's a very good sequence, and the whole of that, even when because at the end of it, basically Sam has to really, really step up.
Well, he actually says to him, "I can't carry it for you, but I can you."
I can carry you.
One thing about that whole sequence, is how easily Frodo is swayed by Gollum when Sam's been his friend. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't listen to him.
It's because of the ring, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but he loses pretty easily.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, because it's the corrupting power of the ring. Because, like, at the end, when they're gonna throw it into Mount Doom, he don't want to do it.
Yeah, he gets there and he's like, no.
It's because and that's because how easily swayed you are. The ring wants him to listen to Gollum, and it wants to get rid of Sam because Sam's pure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sam is purely pure of heart, isn't it? But whereas it's not saying that Frodo's not. It's more that it's been working on him for such a long time.
Well, again, the time scale of where it takes place.
So I get it, but this is what I mean about the Return of the King. I think in terms of some of its set pieces, it has some of the highest highs, but a touch of the lowest of the low as
about
well.
3 of the films.
Yeah. All...
Because that whole the whole battle and the whole siege and the defence of Minas Tirith, it's great. And you've got stages of the battle as well.
I would say the Siege of Minas Tirith is better than Helm's Deep.
Yeah, okay.
Personally,
Scales, off the scale.
Scale off the scale, and I also I feel like the hopelessness of it is done a little better than at Helm's Deep.
Yeah, it's more of a last stand than
genuinely. And
a battle.
This film, particularly the Gandalf Aragorn side of it, is more the war film than any other. It's structured like a war film.
Yes,
if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like genuinely, like sort of like your Last Stand, like a Dunkirk, like a yeah,
like a like.
Yeah,
but I agree. No, it is.
Similar to the Last Stand of Saving Private Ryan. Like literally, we're talking overwhelming odds, and it's like, and Gandalf says, "Is there any hope? Only a fool's hope."
Yeah,
it's slightly more
he says
optimistic. He said to Pippin.
That's
and so I just think that's slightly more well done. I have to say the stupidest scene for me is when Denethor kills himself.
Runs off the thing.
Runs off the thing. He must have run for miles.
Yeah, I know.
A person on fire, right, has jumped off of the pyre.
Yeah.
Ran down the hall.
He could have run. He ran in a straight line.
Right. He must have run 3/4 of a mile because how long is that thing to run right off the edge? Stupid scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely stupid scene.
Silly.
Although I think the guy that plays Denethor, he does up until that scene play it well. Plays it mental. Denethor.
John Noble.
He plays it mental.
He was in Fringe.
He was in Fringe. He's good in Fringe. He plays it mental, and that's exactly what you want Denethor to be. He plays it, flee for your lives, and Gandalf twats him about it. Do you know what I mean? And that's although I hate that scene with that tomato when he's eating that.
And it's like and it's just like dripping. Out his mouth.
I hate it. I hate it. But But again, like Theoden has his ride to
ruin,
brilliant,
brilliant,
fantastic,
yeah.
and obviously he dies there as well. Like brilliant final scene from him. Brilliant speech from Aragorn from Viggo Mortensen at the Black Gate.
Superb,
so absolutely superb.
But the sequence of the destruction of the ring, then what comes after that, you know, and obviously the whole trying to... They actually breach the walls and they're in the city. You're fucked. You're going from tier to tier to tier, and they come in.
Constantly coming, and Ian McKellen does
I don't know,
stellar job
there,
all the way through, rallying men, fighting constantly. It is so good.
It's full on from that moment where it kicks off, and that's probably what about a good 45 minutes of the film.
In quite a long runtime as well.
I know. The theatrical is the longest one of the three.
Yeah,
and even more so because it's like 4.5 hours long in the extended version.
It doesn't. I don't think Return of the King drags at any moment. It has. Whereas I think Two Towers had pacing issues. I don't think this has pacing issues. I just think we could have done... I mean, it sort of is a pacing thing, but more of a sort of editing thing. We could have done with chopping a few little bits out of it.
I don't know. I think there becomes a point in... Again, I've said this when we started talking about this film. It seems to have a lot of this. It's ending, and then it's not. It's ending.
Yeah,
it's ending, and I get that because you have so many characters, and you have to. You have to put a full stop to all of the characters' stories.
But that's the thing in the theatrical cut they don't, which is why I think we could have done with keeping some scenes in, and maybe taking a little bit out of other things. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because with like Saruman's story, we don't wrap that up properly.
That,
There were other characters as well. Aemir, they don't wrap him up. He only gets his end in the theatrical cut. They don't end Faramir very well. Obviously, he's him out of 300.
Oh, he's Sean Bean's brother.
Yeah. Don't end him very well in the theatrical.
No, they do. Yeah, in the extended they do.
They do. They do. Again, they're doing him and Eowyn get together in the possibly the most forced moment. That's again stupid. There's no reason for them to get together, but that's in the book that she just gets with him.
Oh,
and
right,
you're like, right, okay, that comes out of nowhere. But and so. I just think there are goofier moments in this film.
And that whole, when the reunion, and it's all slow-mo and...
Goofy.
Yeah.
Goofy.
Yeah.
really goofy. Yeah. Should have cut that. Should genuinely have cut that.
Back?
You could have had one moment where they'd literally get, they all run in and hug him or something, and it'd have been fine.
Oh, just a brief scene of them all together around his bed. And he's just looking, going, we made it, guys. Made it. That's it.
It would have been
You don't need the, I'll jump on your bed. Do you know, he jumps on it. I know, Mark, I know.
I absolutely fucking hate this, where they all walk in one by one. Like it's the credits to a play. Like it's at the end of a play. They all walk in, you expect them all to be like, hold hands then and fucking bow.
Take a bow.
Take a bow. Like, and then we'll have second breakfast. I'd go, don't like that. Get rid. Don't need to be.
That annoys me. Does
not need to be.
And it's in like a very
wistful.
Slow-mo.
So strange, focus. Strangely lit. It's like the end of a 90s TV show. Weird. Get rid.
I don't like that scene.
I do think you need to have Aragorn being crowned.
Of course.
You do need to
because it's Return of the King.
But. And I wouldn't like that to come at the expense of the good scene where we said where they're all like, oh fuck, like, do you know what I mean? But I think realistically that should have been the end. Return of King is back. It's back. It's King.
Exactly.
King.
Exactly. The clues in the title.
King, this lad. So you do have to have that scene, but it's indulgent. It's indulgent. Like
Yeah, and I think there's more indulgence in this last one. Than the other two.
You can very much tell.
But on the whole, excellent film.
It's still an excellent film. So, shall we give some thoughts and feelings to both legacy and just the...
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it had we've mentioned at the top of the show, the impact it had on filmmaking going forward, the impact it had on popular culture, the spectacle that hadn't been seen before in terms of that modern filmmaking.
Yeah.
Again, it started a trend of multiple films and being book adaptations, and because everything after that was like, what's next? What can we do next? It's cash grab.
What's the next big thing?
Cash grab, and then which led on to eventually, 10 years later, the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah.
Which again was supposed to be 2 films, and then that was...
And it should have been 2 films.
It should have been 2 films.
It should have been 2 films. Yeah. Right, The Hobbit...
They actually... The last one, The Battle of the Five Armies, they made a film of just a fight.
It's one battle.
It's just a fight.
It's so boring. I hate The Battle of the Five Armies.
Just a fight.
I do quite like Desolation of Smaug.
I think that's the best film.
It's the best one out of them. And I don't mind An Unexpected Journey, but it's sort of like a weak-ass
even more
Fellowship.
Whimsical than...
Yeah, but I do like that in a certain extent, because the Hobbits are children.
It's even more... Yeah.
But
younger children.
But they then get the balance right, I think, with Desolation of Smaug. But then Five Armies, there's absolutely no reason for this to exist.
Even more battle in the extended version.
Oh, I wouldn't watch the extended version. I never go and
I've got them in 3D.
I never revisit
Cool in
The
3D.
Hobbit. I never revisit The Hobbit.
I again, the Desolation of Smaug is the one I've watched way more.
As well, because that dragon, and played superbly by Benedict Cumberbatch, is absolutely...
that speech.
Yeah. Well, thief...
But not when he's swooping over Lake Town. Yeah.
Like, it's great. It is fantastic.
Because he was competing with Andy Serkis.
Oh yeah, and he absolutely does.
He does actually.
But I'm sorry, one really great dragon does not make a great fantasy film.
Agree.
Do you know what I mean?
2's enough.
Like, and Martin Freeman is really good in it.
Well, what
as
happened
well.
is they actually filmed it as 2, and then it made The Unexpected Journey fucking big hit.
Yeah.
And they went, add more. Here's more. How much do you want? How much do you want?
Yeah.
Because again, the lead up to that, Del Toro's supposed to direct it.
Oh, and I've seen some of the artwork. Very different, and I think they should have. Personally,
it was in me when I'm sick of waiting now, taking the piss.
Yeah, you're taking the piss. And also...
a rights issue again, Mark.
Peter Jackson, absolutely, and you can tell it when you watch the making of.
Yeah, the making of. Which, by the way, the making of these trilogies are tippy-toppy, like...
Yeah, do watch. They get hours and hours worth of things.
This is how we made these films. Brilliant making of.
You can tell Peter Jackson is tapped out.
Phoning it in.
He is exhausted, and he's phoning it in. He has had...
That's what the word I was thinking about at the top of the show to say. In terms of these were it's almost like he's just fulfilling a contract or he's doing it. But competently. But they shouldn't... They don't have the same
Del Toro should have made those films.
He should have.
He should have.
Different
and
thing.
It would have been a different
its own thing.
And its own thing and a new take on it.
Whereas everyone wanted Lord of the Rings too.
And it shouldn't... And this is one reason why...
He didn't want to do it. He didn't... Peter Jackson was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not directing it.
He was supposed to be the producer.
Yeah. But he did
say, but I am not directing it. And then he ended up having to... Because Del Toro, in the end, rightly went... You're fannying me about
Come on.
I'm going home.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. They had the sets built, costumes that...
And it looks totally different. I'm very intrigued by it. That is the film that
you went from fantasy to fairy tale.
Yeah, but I think that could have... Because The Hobbit is a lot more of a fairy tale than Lord of the Rings. It would have been a nice swerve. Somewhat away from Peter Jackson's take on it.
Its own thing.
And very much its own thing. It's shame.
The thing is, he had to be a slave to what come before.
Shame. And this, to a certain extent, is the negative impact of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was such a... we've spoke about it all of this show. They're great films.
Yeah.
But they've led to, in my opinion, a very 6 of one and half a dozen of the other legacy. In terms of they made great films.
I get what you mean.
But they've changed the game for franchising. They've changed the game for how films are made and produced, positively and negatively.
Agree.
They as well ended up pushing up the budgets of everything.
Well. Hitting on budget, right? So the budget for the original trilogy, combined to create the trilogy, was 281 million. The combined budget, again, this is the point I make. This is proving the point.
Yeah.
The budget for these trilogy, Unexpected Journey, Desolation of Smaug, and The Battle of the Five Armies, was between 700 and 745 million.
It's the scale, because they thought they were.
Do you know how much it made as a trilogy?
What?
2.938 billion.
Yeah.
Billion.
I understand they were commercially successful films,
But Return of the King made half that.
Yeah.
On its own.
On its own. The thing is, Lord of the Rings.
But that goes to show the filmmaker that how much it takes now.
It spawned a rat race, I have to say. It spawned an absolute rat race.
Which eventually led to Game of Thrones. I truly believe that.
That's the positive side of it, but I feel like the negative side of it is what happened.
The Hobbit trilogy.
The Hobbit. Because it's just... I'm not saying you won't get any enjoyment out of them, but it's a very varied, mixed bag of some shit. Some bits of gold in clumps of shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it did spring Game of Thrones, which is a positive, but it also sprung endless trilogies of stuff you don't need. You don't need these films, and also codified how an adaptation of a series of books has to be done.
But we say this all the time, Matt. We say this all the time. You always get one good one, then imitators, and it's diminishing returns then.
It is diminishing
returns. Quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly. You know, the quality of films drops dramatically quickly when you're trying to emulate something new, something different, something unexpectedly successful.
Yeah. Because
it's a business.
Noticeably, Pirates of the Caribbean, they did make just one film, but then these were happening, and they're like, "Oh, we'll film them all together," and the rest of the films were all filmed together.
Yeah. They were.
To diminishing returns. This whole idea of making one film per book. It essentially...
And they tried to do Lion Witch, and the Road Robin failed.
I actually don't think the first Chronicles of Narnia is a bad film. I don't think it's dreadful at all.
Different audience.
It's a children's audience. Yeah. It's Lion the Witch with the Wardrobe. But I'd say I still don't think it's a bad film at all. But it's Lord of the Rings clone. Is what it is, which is a shame because Chronicles of Narnia it's not a Lord of the Rings clone. Do you know what I mean? It's different. It's a different thing. So yeah, so he's got a mixed bag of a legacy, but I just want to say it's legacy in terms of the enjoyment of cinema and the spectacle and of a brilliant story, well told throughout.
Deserved these Oscars. Let's put it out there. You know, they deserve all the Oscars.
I think that these will always have a special place in my heart.
It's got to be one of the best trilogies ever made. It's in the top 5. Got to be, man.
It's got to be. Like it's there with original Indiana Jones, like
Star
Wars, and the Lord of the Rings and Die Hard.
Because there's only 3 of them as well.
Yeah, 100%. So I think these are they're beautiful films in a way.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, and they're films that I think to a certain extent the world needed them at that time. They needed the escapism, for one thing. Think about it just in terms of what was going on in the world. I think part of its success, like the first film came out.
There was a lot of technology paranoia at the time. Again, the Matrix and the Millennium Bug and all that shit at that time.
And think about it. The Fellowship of the Ring come out, just over 3 months after 9/11. I think people wanted the escapism of getting away to a place where heroes were truly heroes and friends were really friends, and good conquers evil at the end.
Like you're saying.
And to get, Return of the King came out.
You needed a lot of
after. Return of the King came out a few months after we'd invaded Iraq. Like, do you know what I mean? A war film. People needed and wanted and had the escapism that they needed, and I don't think that's not got its merit. It's exactly and like I say, it's a stars-aligned film. There was the public appetite, a director with a vision, a committed group of actors, a production company that wanted it to be a success, and all of a sudden, all the stars aligned to make an absolute belter of a film series, because everyone was there for it, everyone wanted it, and people needed it at the time. And I think that's important to say.
I agree. You know, and I think it's become a generation's trilogy.
Yeah,
you know,
it's our generation's Star Wars.
It's not a lot of people just walking for 3 films.
No,
it's no. Which it got criticism, hasn't it, over the years for that?
Yeah,
but even that, it's you comparing everything to that now with a certain generation.
Yeah,
what stands up to the quality of that? No. So then, what does that say?
And I can't think of anything since that that has stood up to the quality of Lord of the Rings in terms of this kind of film.
In terms of the keeping the bar high for each film.
Yeah. I can't,
because even the Harry Potters make varying colour.
Wildly. Best one's Prisoner of Azkaban.
100%. Gary Oldman's great in it.
Yeah, Gary Oldman's fantastic in it. And Michael Gambon's great.
Oh, well, say no more.
But
Singing Detective.
But yeah, Wildly. The Hunger Games, I know you don't like them.
Maze Runner.
But they're just churning out
Twilight.
one film. Don't like. They're wildly different in quality each of the films, and so yeah, it's the Lord of the Rings is lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, I agree.
We will not see its like again, for a long time.
Maybe it's the last one.
Because
last one I kind of think I'm going along the lines of you on that one, yeah.
Yeah, because I can't think of anything where the stars aligned in that way of just everyone at just the right time in their life.
Again, it is a we're at that stage now where it's a generations trilogy. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like they compare everything they see.
Is it like the Lord of the
Rings? Is it
Rings?
as good as that?
Yeah, and I don't think anything will be. But to a certain extent, that's okay, because we've got 3 absolute fucking stellar films. We've got them, and we'll always have them.
Especially in the fantasy genre, it's tippy-topper in terms of filmic vision of a fantasy story.
Yeah. So, shall we give them a rating? An overall rating?
I mean, I think you've got to put it at a 9 for me.
I think you've got to put them at a 9.
A 9.
It's got to be. I think anything less.
Silly.
What do you mean? It's silly nonsense.
Silly. You can't. It sets a bar high, and it holds that bar at a certain
consistently high
throughout the next two films.
Yeah.
And again, proof is in the pudding in terms of legacy and impacts it's had. So that's it, guys.
So yeah,
that's the Lord of the Rings trilogy special. We hope you enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah, we've been with you a little bit longer than we normally are,
but deservedly so.
I feel like we've done 3 films and
they have to be done justice, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
if they are generational, then
there you go.
You know.
So guys, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Get us on the socials, get in contact, leave a like, a subscribe, and share for all the platforms you listen to us on.
Yeah.
The address is thevaultofcult@gmail.com, and you can get us on Instagram at thevaultofcult. So it's a goodbye from me.
And me. See you later.